one who sacrifices things.
Tin Street Hooligan.
Lose that.
Oh, the sacrifice one? Where you?
Yeah.
How far back are you going?
Okay. Well, anyway, sorry about that. Tuk Scrapper. The 2/2 for 4, blowing up an artifact, dealing damage.
Damage equal to the number of allies you control.
Right.
Now, there's only one other ally in his deck.
It's the other Tuk Scrapper.
But he also has Kiki-Jiki, so he can make an endless supply of
allies. He could, in theory, do 4 damage off a Tuk Scrapper.
In theory, communism works. In theory.
provided there were artifacts left to blow up at that point. But more importantly, he has great answers to cards like Batterskull. This deck, while Snowbird Magic is still very good against goblins, he has a lot of answers to the 1/2.
You can see Louis Corso here on your left, and his opponent Brett Parise, mono red goblins on the right. The question from before, why no Rishadan Port? And in a lot of ways, one of the other things that's been happening, Rishadan Port is not as exciting against decks that have mana creatures or manage to develop their board as well.
I suppose Rishadan Porting against, your typical control decks, say Stoneblade here, really can use it, you port them during your upkeep, well, okay, I'll put a Batterskull into play, that's fine, my land's now tapped.
Yeah.
There's a lot of outlets for it, so maybe just your extra red source, making sure that you hit you actually want your lands so that you can cast spells alongside viling spells.
And remember, Rishadan Port is a wasteland target all of its own.
Right.
Now, another name for Rishadan Port that I've heard before is Rashad in Port, after our favorite Rashad in the game of Magic. I know several people that have Rashad signed Rishadan Ports, so.
I see. That is.
Who do you like for Game 3 after they've sideboarded?
After the sideboard, well, Brett Parise gets a Red Elemental Blast, a Pyroblast, another Pyrokinesis, and that's probably all he has coming in.
I don't mind Relic if he's looking for room, but I don't know if he needs to.
Yeah, Relic if he's looking for... Yeah, I think he has enough cards in Manic that he doesn't really
he's
need
fighting
that.
Lingering Souls and Snapcaster, so there's use for it.
Louis Corso, possibly with Dark Blast, wanting to make sure that...
I like Dark Blast. It's good against the turn 1 Lackey.
I like Dark Blast. I think I like Engineered Explosives.
I also like Engineered Explosives.
And...
I like Blue Elemental Blast.
I like Blue Elemental Blast a lot.
I like Zealous Persecution.
So, the turn 1 play off Brett Parise, Ether Vial. Excellent in the matchup. He's going to get a piece of his hand gone. Maybe Louis Corso can stop that Ether Vial from being very good. Brett Parise looks like he was on 6 cards. So now soon will be on 5. At this point, Corso, actually, he can't... Remember that Brett can't cast the Warren Instigator here. So Corso actually has the ability, as long as Brett has to be careful, but if he can answer he can really strand a lot of cards.
Goodbye, Matron.
So Brett's line right now is to try to vial in an Instigator and hope to draw some big angry goblin.
He lays the Wasteland we already know about. I think it's going to be a pass. What's the last card in his hand? Is that a Chieftain? I think it's a Chieftain, but I'm not sure.
Corso having to be careful not to get himself wastelanded here. As long as he can, say Dark Blast the Warren Instigator or something, should be looking very good for him.
For those of you who are just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here, joined by Matthias Hunt. We're in the top 8 of the the Legacy Open for the Star City Games here in Sacramento.
And another land drawn by Brett Parise. Now, between Ether Vial and lands, he's probably set for the game on those cards. He needs to draw more threats. He's only threat left in his hand. He has a Pyroblast, a Warren Instigator, and an unknown card. Instigator may be really good here, but, it's going to need to have something to put into play. Corso with 2 Swords to Plowshares, it appears in his hand, ready to deal with lots of Brett's draws. Louis just needs, probably looking for really a threat of his own, and once he gets there, if he can draw something like a Stoneforge Mystic or a Jace, or Jace the Mind Sculptor, that should be very strong. Brett going to attacks.
Attaku. See a fetch
I think we're going to see a swords. One of the 2 Swords to Plowshares get used up on the Warren Instigator. There is a Goblin Ringleader now in Brett Parise's hand, a very relevant spell.
Absolutely.
If he vials it in, it can't be Blue Elemental Blasted. Brett really low on cards, but perfect time for Ringleader.
How do you feel about how to put this? The inclusion of this Warren Instigator. I mean, it seems very unusual.
Well, some Warren Instigators have been... Well, Warren Instigator has been in some Goblins lists. What I do like about it is that Brett has made a lot of changes in his deck because he doesn't have the War Chief. His Goblins will have to cost face value. And he's put in a few more expensive Goblins. He has 3 5-drops, he has 2 Tuk-Tuk Scrappers, he has a Sharpshooter. I like that he has ways to get them into play. And just because of that, I think I do like Warren Instigator a little bit more than I would have traditionally.
Okay. Stoneforge Mystic coming into play. Let's see what it has left. It's going to have probably 2 Umezawa's Jites after board.
Jite, the strongest card in this matchup.
He does not have a sideboard Umezawa's Jite, so I guess it's just going to be the 1 Umezawa's Jite and the 1 Batterskull.
Right, so he's hoping... I remember Brett almost certainly going to tick the Ethervial up to 4 and Vial in the Goblin Ringleader. Really can't afford to have that spell get countered at all, so taking no risks, I would expect it to get it Vialed in.
A little tap from Brett Parise on his opponent's deck.
All right.
Theoretically, 1 is required to shuffle.
We have, is that 2 Force of Wills? And I think that's 2 Force of Wills in Luis Corso's deck.
Okay.
And
he taps the Aether Vial to see if Lewis has any responses. And he doesn't. So on the next turn,
Brett
up to 4, taps it.
All right.
Ringleader.
Let's see how many cards we draw. It's that fabled mono red
Tuk-Tuk.
The Scrapper, huge here.
Only a single Tuk-Tuk Scrapper.
Very good there for Corso, but Scrapper is pretty relevant as against the Stoneforge Mystic. His hand, though, one of the problems which you'll see is that Brett still doesn't have many sources of damage. And he's going to start another Ether Vial up. Really stranding those 2 Force of Wills in Lewis's hand.
Force of Will is really an unexciting card against Goblins, except for on turn 1, when you're stopping a Lackey or stopping an Aether Vial.
I think how we'll end up seeing it used is Brett does have 1 Pyroblast, and Lewis has 2 Forces, so I almost think we'll see Force pitching Force whenever Brett tries to play this Pyroblast. So Brett swinging in. Probably Stoneforge Mystic far too valuable to have it block here. What's interesting is that normally Stoneforge Mystic with a thing like Jite would be able to play around a Tuk-Tuk Scrapper because of Stoneforge Mystic's ability to end step the Jite and swing it in. Brett, on the other hand, has his own answer to that, is he can instant speed the Scrapper right back at the Jite, essentially negating the Jite. Lewis is going to have to find another spell.
There are exactly, I believe, 4 basic lands in this deck. Lewis has all 4 of them in play now.
That wasteland will eventually find a target.
Every other land that Lewis gets, as long as it is actually a fetched land,
as long
as it's not a fetch land, it can be wastelanded.
Right.
Another
tap by Brett Parise. I'm going to cast Jite, equip it, and he wants to do this before the Scrapper can come in.
Yeah, while it's still stranded in the hand.
Yep. So this way, Scrapper will come in. Lewis will get to take down one of the creatures with him. Probably will end up taking down the Ringleader in case Brett ends up eventually making a Kiki-Jiki. We have Land, Scrapper, Pyroblast for Brett Parise. Yep, Scrapper comes in.
Scrapper? Let me read this card, please. I think what we should see is the Umezawa's Jite kill the Scrapper before the Scrapper's effect goes off, thus making the damage from the Scrapper be equal to 0.
Ooh, that is probably... Yeah, the 2 considerations, yeah, that's definitely more relevant than the other consideration, which is eventually if a Kiki-Jiki were drawn, but I would agree. The 1 life point's worth more than that.
It's actually an open question, I think.
Okay.
I think I would go for the 1 life point, but the eventuality of a potential Kiki-Jiki is real.
Right. Kiki-Jiki copying Tuk-Tuk Scrapper, not such a big deal. Kiki-Jiki copying Goblin Ringleader, very big deal.
One life really is relevant. So, I mean, it's an open question, I think.
Right. Lewis drawing
This
a
is
white
not
card
the
of
position
sorts.
that Brett wants to be in. Brett needs to get some action going, and he doesn't really seem to have much going on right now.
Remember, the fun part of the Goblins is he is one Matron or one Ringleader away from all the action he could hope for.
I mean, he might actually have a Matron in his hand, but merely be waiting for the Aether Vial to tick up to a 3 so that he can get it past any potential counter magic, whether it's Blue Elemental Blast, whether it's Force of Will, or anything like that.
Right.
He goes up to 5. Ooh.
All right, so did he draw the Kiki-Jiki?
Or any other Siege Gang commander, for example.
In his hand, he has drawn another Pyroblast. No, he only has
I
one.
think he might have
only
a
has one Pyroblast. So
Oh,
it can't-
he is tapping the 5.
And it is the play.
Oh, Kiki-Jiki.
We've talked about
In response. That is the saddest. He can respond to the...
He can respond.
Well, actually, no. Once he has said, "I'm tapping this," that's the moment he has to put it into play.
So So
So
now
there
they
is a
have
Kiki-Jiki
Now there's
in
going to
play.
be a game of chicken.
Yeah.
He's
He can't act. He just has to just sit there, and neither of them can act.
Right. So,
Wow.
as it turned out, our discussion before, are we regretting our decision to kill the Tuk-Tuk Scrapper?
Well, I mean, the odds of that Kiki-Jiki coming up were pretty small,
It
but
is
I
a
mean, it
one-off.
is real.
And Stoneforging, in Batterskull.
Yikes.
So maybe if he has a Batterskull in hand, I think the decision is clear then to get rid of the Tuk-Tuks, to get rid of...
Okay, and it looks like we're going to have a fake ringleader come into play and maybe bring some friends to the party.
Aether Vial,
Biff,
Goblin
that's a
Chieftain,
chief,
Red Blast,
and another ringleader. Oh my goodness.
So once he tapped on 5, our decision, yeah. Goblins, such a good card advantage engine.
Oh, it's so good. Block. Goodbye, ringleader.
I'm not sure actually. Oh yeah, sorry, that was done during attack steps. So.
Yes.
Okay. So Pyroblast, Ringleader, Chieftain out of Brett Parise. The question, so you probably work your second vial up to a 4? First 3 for the Chieftain and then 4 for the Ringleader? The second vial stranded at 5, which you could take them back down.
Well, the more you wait, the more opportunities you give the Stoneblade deck to get a brainstorm into good cards, you know.
So say this
Wacky.
game plays out, where you have goblins basically doing its goblin thing, where it starts just making more and more really solid creatures. Would you say that the late game here goes to Lewis or to Brett?
Oh, it's hard. Okay, we've got an activation again of the Aether Vial.
The one at
No
5?
response at 2.
The one at 2.
The Batterskull is currently attacking, and
No creature
no,
went into
nothing.
play.
He just wanted to bait him, I guess. A 4 life gets sucked away from Brett into Lewis, and a Lingering Souls gets dropped.
So what would the bait? He's baiting him on Mogworm, on Sting Scourger, possibly?
Wow, and then he flashes it back. This does mean that Brett Parise is going to have the opportunity to cast Ringleader and Kiki-Jiki the Ringleader.
Yeah, I don't know if I really... No, yes, he will. He will need the 5th land. Lewis thinks he's probably safe due to the double Force of Will in his hand. Now, if Brett has a 5th land, you'll find that that is not correct, as Brett has a Pyroblast for the Force of Will.
Does not look like it's there, though.
No, so... 3, 4... Huh. Difficult decision. All right, another quarterfinal match done. Galen Lamai, the Past in Flames combo deck, defeating Michael Hetrick, running Stoneblade. So our Storm deck now into the semifinals. Storm, if you remember, was the deck of choice that both Adrian and I believed as our odds-on favorites to win this one. It has taken its first match, so the winner of this game will be playing Galen Lamai and his Storm deck. If I were Galen Lamai, I would have to think that I'm cheering for the Goblins deck to win here.
To be fair, Brett Parise's Goblins list does run Chalice of the Void in the board, so it might be...
It has some. It definitely has potential,
play.
Has some play. But I mean, Brett probably not excited about a Storm.
I hear you. Now we see the movement of a Batterskull onto a Spirit.
And
the
goes
germ
away.
dies, but we have a lot of Air Force going on now, including just a bomber squadron over there of a 5/5 flying, vigilant, lifelink Spirit.
So swings in with for 8 damage, 5 of it lifelinking. If you noticed, actually, number 8's pretty relevant on this board. 8 damage this turn. If you can couple it with 8 damage next turn, well, that's a fairly convenient 16 damage. So does Brett have a way? Brett
End of the turn. Brett makes a lackey.
He's going, I think, for a... He's
in
going for a
response,
lackey. Okay.
The card gets swords, giving Brett +1 life, or +2 life. Now at 10, I believe.
Activates both his other vials and gets a Lord. Brett would love to draw Siege Gang Commander. So Brett at 9, not 8, 9.
Yeah, he gained a life, or 2 life from the... so he must have gone down to 7, perhaps, now gained +2.
That Swords to Plowshares. Are you sure you like that? It does... Actually, the movement from 8 to 9...
I know I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, normally the Swords is a great card here, but...
Ringleader, let's see what happens.
I'm almost wanting to say he can...
Oh, Siege Gang Commander, Warren Instigator, Gem
Oh
Palm
my.
Incinerator, Ringleader.
Oh my. And that Ringleader...
I believe
into
Zach
Siege
Hill,
Gang Command.
Zach Hill would say, and that is.
So we have Ringleader, Kiki-Jiki, copying another Ringleader, 8 Goblins into play, all of them with +2/+2 in haste. Is that enough damage?
That's enough.
Well, there's a Batterskull.
No, it's
5
dead.
more.
It's dead. It's going to be Gem Palmed.
He has a Gem Palm in his hand. Was there Gem Palm off that Ringleader?
Yeah, there was a Gem Palm off that Ringleader.
So you copy the Siege Gang. Oh. What? And here comes Goblins. All the way. He thought you were at 26.
I think that the thing you say here is...
Luis Corso at one point feeling very good about this game, suddenly not feeling so good. All these spells uncounterable.
Now remember that if he wants, Brett Parise can copy the Siege Gang Commander with his Kiki-Jiki.
All of them will have haste. All of them will have +2/+2. That is 8. 8 Goblins, all at 3/3 or more. That is at least 24 damage. That should be more than enough. Plays Instigator for extra measure. Also now 3/3 double strike and haste. And here...
Wait, what is going on there? What? Was there... Maybe I didn't see a Gem Palm. Maybe that was...
Okay, there must not...
That must not have been a Gem Palm.
Is there... So without the Gem Palm Incinerator, it's actually not enough damage? Once again, that 1 life they gave him off that Swords to Plowshares?
The 2 life he gave him. There
He
was
Swords to Goblin Lackey.
But there was a War Chief in play. Or a Chieftain, a Goblin Chieftain in play. So that makes it a 2/2.
That is correct. It would be a 2/2.
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, wouldn't that put... But that would probably maybe put Brett at 10. I don't think it's really consequential either way. I think it's Brett's at 1 more than this swing. And next turn's swing, terrifying for Lewis. Kiki-Jiki will make a lot of Siege Gang Commanders.
I thought I saw a Gem Palm Incinerator.
Well, we'll see. Tapping 2, I believe he's casting another Stoneforge Mystic. So it is off the bottom of your screen. For white-black, it's unlikely he's casting something that's not Stoneforge Mystic. So, Luis Corso debating here. If he has an Umezawa's, it's... Right, he does not have... Yep, and there it is. It is Stoneforge Mystic. And it is Gem Palm Incinerator.
It is.
I do think Brett had the win last turn.
Brett had the win last turn. His opponent was tapped out.
Yeah. Not that I think Brett will still have the win, to be fair, but I do think he had it on the board.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, when you're in these top 8 situations, oftentimes if you can really tighten up, want to feel like, you know, that really you really don't want to look foolish, and make a play where you don't want to swing for lethal and have it not be lethal. So sometimes you look at the play and you're like, oh well, I'll end step and I'll have 2 Siege Gang commanders. That'll really do the trick.
This board is so absurd. Oh boy. Now that 2 there is
the number of Siege Gang commanders. Okay. Now that Siege Gang commander's over there, he's tapping 3, 4. Really just wanting to make sure that this is going to work out. So barring fog from Lewis, and that's Brett Parise.
I think that that's all she wrote.
So Brett Parise wins in 3. Goblins showing once again why it's one of the best card advantage decks in Legacy.
There's a